All right, y'all, on today's video, we are talking cost of living in the Twin Cities of Minnesota, specifically in 2021. Let's get into it. Again, my name is Jesse Lynch. I make these videos to help you find a place to call home. And I also run the hardest working real estate team anywhere in the world. A little bit biased, and we are called To the Twin Cities. I promise if you get hold of us, we will absolutely crush it for you. So you can go check out our website, tothetwincities.com, or you can reach out to us at the phone number and email address on the screen. But all right, today's video is going to be a little bit of a doozy, and it's basically what is the cost of living here in the Twin Cities in 2021. I did one of these last year, and the truth is it's changed since then. So we're gonna go over that, updated, and hopefully even more thorough than the last one I did. Okay, so real quick, this video is extremely data heavy. These videos are difficult to make. They take a lot of time to basically, aggregate all this information and then hopefully present it to you in a way that's digestible and doesn't just sound like me shouting numbers at you. So one more time before we hop into it, just give the video a like, a little thumbs up button. I assure you this video took a long time to make, so do me that favor. Okay, thanks. By the way, we don't say that here in Minnesota. That's a Canadian thing, and I'm not Canadian. So why did I say it? I don't know. Okay, I'm just gonna start with the big picture stuff. Basically, like, how is it ranked as far as cost of living? Obviously, you could look this stuff up if you wanted, but according to Numbeo.com. By the way, Numbeo.com, pretty cool source for this kind of information. So, I don't know, while you're watching this, if you wanna look, it's kind of interesting. So, St. Paul is ranked 13th most expensive city in the United States, and Minneapolis is ranked 16th most expensive city in the United States. If I'm being honest, that doesn't add up to me. I've always thought of Minneapolis as being a more expensive version of St. Paul, but maybe things like taxes or the fact that maybe Minneapolis is just bigger, the population is a lot bigger, so maybe we have more rentals, and as a result of having more rentals, maybe that brings the average cost of living down at aggregate, but nonetheless, that does surprise me. Minneapolis, again, ranked 16th, St. Paul is ranked 13th. So Numbeo also uses a thing called the cost of living index as a sort of display of, what the cost of living is in a particular area. And basically what they're doing is they're using New York City as a baseline, right? They're saying, okay, New York City is 100, and anything that's more expensive than that would be a number higher than 100, and anything less expensive than New York City would be a number under 100. And so with that said, St. Paul comes in just under an 80, and Minneapolis comes in just over a 78. So very similar if you're taking sort of that broad picture, but that's what we're looking at. And one thing to note is that Numbeo says they don't count rent prices, which I don't know, to me seems like maybe they should. That seems like a pretty important factor in how affordable a place is. But without that rent coming into play and just sort of what are the costs of goods on average, interestingly enough, Los Angeles is ranked 12th. And then St. Paul is ranked 13th. And then you have Charleston, South Carolina, Pittsburgh, Minneapolis, and then Chicago. I don't know. That's all very interesting. It seems like in general, they're probably pretty competitive as far as like the cost of goods, but it's definitely a lot more expensive to buy a home and rent a house in the likes of LA than it is here. So I don't know, interesting thing to consider, but I tend to think that more so is focusing on the cost of goods and services. But back in 2019, Move.org did a survey or a study, and they determined that St. Paul was 40th most expensive city in the nation, and Minneapolis was 48th most expensive in the nation. And while that's like 2 years old, I'm still gonna make an assumption that when you factor in rent and home prices, that might be a little more accurate than us being the 12th most expensive. And I could be wrong about that, but I think here's one thing that speaks to the quality of life that is available here in the Twin Cities, and that is that maybe we rank 13th and 16th as far as cost of living, or 40th and 48th, but the median household income here in the Twin Cities is 7th highest in the nation, and that's according to census.gov, aka, the United States Census Bureau. The median household income here in the Twin Cities is just under $84,000, and what I find fascinating is that we are just behind a bunch of cities that are basically known for being extremely expensive, especially in the housing world, and those are San Francisco, Washington, D.C., Boston, Seattle, Denver, and San Diego, right? So while our cost of living may be, kind of up there, and I think it's interesting, that's ahead of Baltimore, Portland, New York, Los Angeles, and Chicago. Okay, so now I'm going to begin to sort of refine some of these things and lay out, okay, what does all of this mean? I don't find the big picture stuff that helpful. I find it interesting, but it's not that helpful. So we're gonna dive into more specifics right now. Okay, so the median single family home price, it depends on who you're asking. If you're asking the national area realtors, the median single family home price here in the Twin Cities is $323,000. If you're asking the Minneapolis area realtors, which is like the realtor association that I belong to, and for the record, this data is usually behind a month or two. So for March 2021, the average single family home price was $327,000, which by the way is up 10.7% from March last year. In fairness, 2020 was a very strange year. But if you ask the National Association of Realtors, aka NAR, and in the fourth quarter of 2020, the average single family home price was $323,000, which I think is, interestingly enough, puts us at 51st most expensive in the nation. And just for fun, and honestly this is just because I find it kind of interesting, here are the median single family home prices based on counties in the Twin Cities metro. Anoka County is $312,000, Carver County is $365,000, Dakota County, where I grew up, is $332,000, Hennepin County, where I currently live, is $345,000. Scott County, which by the way, I just did a Savage virtual tour. If you haven't watched it yet, watch it. It's in Scott County. Scott County is $338,000, and then Washington County, which I believe is home to Woodbury and Cottage Grove, has a median single family home price of $350,000. Here's an interesting factoid, is that rents are considered very high here in the Twin Cities. That's according to rentdata.org. The Twin Cities metro is higher than 96% of other what they call fair market rent areas, which basically are just areas that they studied and determined fair market rent for. The average price for a studio apartment here in the Twin Cities is about $898. For a one bedroom, the average price is $1,054. For a two bedroom apartment, the average price is $1,308. And I think maybe most fascinating is that to jump to a three bedroom apartment, it goes all the way up to $1,838. And then if you jump up to four, which I don't feel like there's really that many four bedroom apartments here in the Twin Cities, so maybe they're just talking about four bedroom rentals, but then the average rent price becomes $2,156. And for the record, they say that the price for a two bedroom now versus a two bedroom a year ago has jumped by 7.74% in a year. So that's very interesting. Rents are going up, which rents are always going up, but it's interesting to see by how much. Okay, now we're going to talk about utilities, basically how much does it cost to keep the lights on or Netflix streaming. So the average price for internet, according to numbeo.com, here in the Twin Cities is $61 per month. And for that price, you can get 60 Mbps. Currently where I live, actually internet is included, and I think it's US internet. It is so fast, fastest internet I've ever had. But in my last place, I was paying for Comcast Xfinity. It was decent speeds and it was right around $50. According to numbeo.com, as far as other utilities go, I'm gonna break it down into two sections. One is for renters and one is for homeowners. We're gonna start with renter. And this is based on a 915 square foot apartment. I don't know why they came up with that, but I suppose that's what makes sense. And they basically did a combined, like here is all in for utilities based on the 915 square foot apartment. And that came out to $175, which includes gas, which for the most part is what we use for heating here. You use it in a stove too, but overwhelmingly it's for heat. And then electric, trash, and water / sewer. So $175 on top of whatever the rent would be is the average here in the Twin Cities. And yeah, that seems about right. One little tip for renters is that if you can find an apartment, usually they're older apartments because they're not split up, but if it includes heat, that will save you quite a bit of money, like legitimately could save you $100 a month, especially in the winter seasons, and especially if it's in an old brownstone that is poorly insulated. Okay, now as far as homeowners go, I'm basically using a study that move.org used, and they're using Minnesota as a whole, so unfortunately I don't have that niche down to the Twin Cities, but that is just how the data works. I find this pretty interesting. Minnesota has like a really fascinating climate where we get really hot and we get really cold. I would expect our utilities to be considerably higher than a lot of other places, but actually we have the 15th least expensive utility cost in the nation, with an average monthly price of $341 all in for utilities. Monthly averages are $99 for electricity, $62 for natural gas, and $70 for water. And as I understand it, our natural gas here is actually pretty cheap in regards to national averages, and I assume that's because we use quite a bit of it. Most homes here are heated with natural gas, whether that be a furnace, a forced air furnace, or a boiler, basically like a radiant heat boiler. And there are some homes that are heated with electricity, but generally that is considered a negative in a home here, because that means that your heat bills are going to be considerably higher than if you have natural gas. All right, now on to everybody's favorite thing, taxes. Here in Minnesota, our median property tax rate is ranked 19th out of 50. And on average, and this is going to be pretty consistent around the entire Twin Cities metro, it's going to be 1% or so, give or take, a 0.1 or 0.2% of the total value of the property. Okay, and I can't remember all these numbers, so I'm gonna actually have to look at my phone. And again, this is based on median home prices are the following. Anoka County is $3,308, Carver County is $3,406, Dakota County is $3,340, Hennepin County is $3,733, Ramsey County is $3,439, Scott County is $3,373, and Washington County is $3,144. So overall in the state of Minnesota, our sales tax is 6.875. But we also do have local taxes. So Minneapolis gets bumped up to 8.025, and St. Paul is under that at 7.875. One, I think, very important thing to note is that here in Minnesota, we do not tax things that are considered essentials, which basically, as far as I know, means that we don't pay taxes on food or clothing, but that doesn't count food that is prepared for you. So you can go to the Mall of America, buy a bunch of clothes, and you won't get taxed, but if you buy food from the food court or fancy restaurant or whatever, then you will get taxed on that food because it's prepared for you. However, if you go to a grocery store, there's not gonna be a tax on that food. Cool? Okay, and then as far as how you get around and how much this stuff costs, we're going to talk a little bit about transportation. But first, I'm going to quickly talk about insurance. If you have a vehicle, you probably need insurance. And according to thezebra.com, obviously insurance rates vary dramatically. It depends on your age, your driving record, probably your criminal history, probably your credit, I don't know. But here in Minnesota, we come in 12% under the national average for car or auto insurance with an average price of $1,258. Again, I don't know that that's even that helpful because it greatly depends on your situation. And I know personally that a pretty big factor in how much you're going to be paying in car insurance is what zip code you're living in, even within the Twin Cities. So one thing that I think really lends itself to the quality of life here in the Twin Cities is that we have traffic, but our traffic is not as bad as some of the other major metropolitan areas. The average commute for people living in the Twin Cities is 25.5 minutes, which is, oh my God, so much better than people on the West Coast. And it ranks 4th best in the nation out of the 30th largest metropolitan areas in the nation. Tell me that is not a good reason to move here. According to GasBuddy.com, which by the way is a pretty fun little tool if you want to check it out, it updates like very, very consistently. But the average price of a gallon of gas as of the day that I'm shooting this is $2.71. And now you might want to pull out a map, because I think if you're looking at a map, it can be pretty confusing to know like how far away is that from where, say, my job is going to be. Let's say you're going to get a job in downtown Minneapolis or downtown St. Paul, and then you're trying to figure out what's a reasonable commute. Well, like I said before, the average commute is just over 25 minutes, and the following cities are basically all within that approximately 25-minute commute time. And obviously this depends pretty greatly on traffic and certainly weather. Snow here can really slow that down more than just about anything else. But luckily, I would say, we don't get that many giant snowfalls here that just like obliterate traffic. They happen, but it's relatively few and far between. So the following cities are all within 25 minutes of the downtown metro areas: Woodbury, Chanhassen, Coon Rapids, and Apple Valley, which is where I grew up. So you can use those places and then look at a map, and obviously things that are closer to the metro are gonna fall even less than that amount of time. If you're going further out, you gotta add some time to it. Also, one little thing to note is that we have things called the min pass lane. Basically, like, It's a pay to go fast lane, and the fees to travel in that lane can vary pretty dramatically, but they are intended to keep traffic flowing in that lane. So you're not paying to be in this lane and it's going really slow. And it can be as low as 25 cents or it can be as high as $8. But the goal of the min-pass lane in general is to be going basically 50 to 55 miles per hour at all times. So if you're in a hurry or you just got the money and don't want to sit, min-pass can be an excellent thing to have. But if you can't afford it, you just unfortunately have to watch people drive by you much faster than you. It can be a little bit painful. Okay, so if you don't have a car, you might have to use our public transportation system, aka Metro Transit. There are a couple small little sort of subsidiary things, but for the most part, we're talking Metro Transit. That's all of our bus lines and the 2 light rail lines, soon to be 3. So if you're using that to commute on the regular, then probably the move would be to get a monthly pass. And the average price for the monthly pass here is $76 per month, which ranks 18th most affordable in the nation. We also have a couple options. One is basically a prepaid card. It's called a Go-To card. You can store up to $400 or up to 2 31-day passes on that Go card. It makes it easier. That way you don't have to have cash or whatever. You can just load it up with money and beep, and then you're on the bus and it subtracts it. And then there's this other thing that we have called Metro Pass, and as far as I know, that's only available through certain employers. So if your employer says, hey, we have this thing called Metro Pass, cool, that's probably what they're talking about, but I don't think you can just go online and buy a Metro Pass. And Metro Pass is $83 per month, which might seem silly because the other one is $76, but you can use all of the local transit and then also all of the regional transit. We have some transit that are basically buses, and we have one train called the North Star train that heads considerably further north than the metro area. So if you're commuting from the likes of St. Cloud down to the Twin Cities metro area, that North Star line could be a really, really smart choice, save you a lot of time in the car and a lot of gas. Basically, to get on a normal bus or the light rail, or both, and I think there's like a 90-minute time period, so you can transfer a few times and you don't have to pay every time. It's $2 for just standard non-rush hour times, and it's $2.50 for rush hour times. And then we also have express buses, which basically have way, way, way fewer stops. Like, let's say you want to get from Apple Valley to downtown Minneapolis, they might have like a handful of stops instead of stopping, every 6 blocks or whatever. So an express bus, it starts at $2.50 for non-rush hour and then goes up to $3.25 during a rush hour. Okay, now we're going to talk food real quick. The average grocery cost for a single individual is $350 per month. And the average grocery cost for a family of 3, which is basically they're saying 2 adults and 1 child, is $825 per month. And that is according to MN.gov. Okay, and now on to healthcare. The average price for a single individual to get healthcare in the state of Minnesota is between $150 to $200 per month. And the average price for a household of 3, again, 2 adults, they call it a partnered couple, and 1 child, the average price for health insurance is $575 per month, which makes me think kids are expensive. But that leads me to the next thing, which is childcare. The average cost of childcare for Minnesota is actually 4th highest in the nation. So I suppose if you have a bunch of really young kids who all need childcare, I don't know, maybe Minnesota isn't the best spot to move. And we are only behind Washington, D.C., Massachusetts, and California. Okay, this is all according to EPI.org, a website I admit I've never been to until now. Average infant care is around $16,000 per year, or $1,300 per month. And average childcare, so they're saying like an approximately 4-year-old, is about $12,000 a year, or just over $1,000 a month. This is kind of fascinating, actually. Childcare, on average, takes 21% of a family's median income here in Minnesota. The United States Department of Health says that in order for childcare to be determined affordable, it should be under 7% of that family's total income. And by that standard, only 5.8% of the families with childcare here in Minnesota would have what is considered affordable healthcare. And also, childcare in Minnesota averages out to be more expensive than college tuition or rent. That is honestly crazy. Okay, and enough being a bummer about how expensive it is to have kids here. We're gonna wrap this up with just some sort of miscellaneous average costs of things here in the Twin Cities. A 3-course meal at like a mid-range restaurant here in the Twin Cities is gonna run 2 people about $65. A pint of beer at a restaurant or one of the many, many great breweries we have here costs about $6 to $7. A cappuccino or a more deluxe coffee is gonna run $4 to $5. On average, like a fitness club is gonna run $60, but for the record, we do have more affordable options. I believe Planet Fitness, Anytime Fitness. Planet Fitness, I believe, is like 20 bucks a month, but then we also do have some really, really nice gyms like Lifetime, and then there are also some really excellent local gyms, whether that be CrossFit or just straight up, clubs. And then finally, the average price for a movie ticket, like a normal, not a 3D movie ticket, is gonna be $11 per seat. 3D or IMAX, you might get up to 16, 17, 18, maybe 3D and IMAX would be up by that price. Okay, and one final consideration here in the Twin Cities is that it costs you $0 to reach out to us and also $0 to click the like button. I'm just kidding, but for real, if you're trying to find a place to call home here in the Twin Cities, get a hold of us, go to our website, tothetwincities.com, give a call to the number you see on the screen, shoot us an email at info@tothetwincities.com. I promise there's gonna be nobody out there who's going to work harder for you than us. And I ask, as you exit this video, please kindly hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. You did it. All right, cool. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.